My name is Bernie. I'm from IT in Extricable Group, a resourceful ERP solution provider, a real friend in our digital journey. We're going to talk about hard truth that makes digital transformation a success. Here are my valuable panelists today. Let me introduce them in very brief. Well over 2 decades, experience on technical and technology and business leadership. He has given all solution, cloud computing, wireless, and communication. Another guru in technology, leading Intel 5G to the world. Also with worldwide experience in strategy development and business. You're warmly welcome, Bhupesh Agrawal. It's my pleasure to have you in this platform.
Thanks, Bernie, for having me here.
I go to a very beautiful lady, Margo. And we are privileged to have you on this platform. And beyond brand, well beyond a brand ambassador, she takes brands with digital care. An advisor, product and portfolio, platform and sustainability in IT. Today we are lucky to have you here, Margo, a proven commercial strategy leader for product launching. You are welcome, Margo.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, dear audience, before we start our webinar, I would like to tell you that we will be giving you a question and answer session maybe at the end of it. I request you to please have your questions to this valuable panelist. They are ready because you should take something home from the webinar. That is why you are here. So they should give you what it takes, what you can take home. Okay, how we begin our webinar. I'm sure that is going to be an amazing hour or little more on. So this is our question and okay, let me put this question to our valuable panelists. I'll start with Margo. Margo, you have spent many years launching and managing commercially successful portfolios as a chief product officer. What role does digital transformation play in portfolio management, if at all?
It's a great question. I think it plays huge.
Excuse me, Margo, just give me a minute. Let me warmly welcome another panelist, Richard Cammish. Hi, Richard.
Hello there. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening. We are most welcome to our webinar. Actually, if I say a few words about Richard, Richard is a proven CEO, a resourceful digital guru with an extensive IT, digital and international experience. You name any industry, Richard was there. Okay, you talk about chocolate, Richard was there. You talk about beer, Richard was there. You talk about thread, Richard was there. So it's my privilege and to have you here on the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie, and hello, everyone.
Hi, Margo. Sorry to interrupt you. Here it is yours.
Not at all. It's good. It's good to have Richard here. So the question was, what role does digital transformation play in the management of portfolios? And it plays a huge, you're not surprised to hear me say it plays a huge role. I think there's going to be a theme throughout this webinar about the fact that digital transformation isn't really about, it's about much more than technology. It's not really about digital. It's about people, it's about culture, it's about ways of working, all sorts of things like that. So I want to touch on, to answer this question, I want to touch on two key aspects associated with digital transformation. One is the cultural aspects that help you to release exciting and successful products to market. And the other is around how digital transformation can help you with cost management, which is also really important in managing your portfolios. So culturally, the principles associated with digital transformation are key, and especially when it comes to developing and launching those new products or services. So there's things like psychological safety. We talk about psychological safety, allowing your people room to experiment, allowing people room to fail, learning from that, and making sure that people feel safe to do these experiments and learn quickly. The other key thing is measuring what you do. Data plays such a key part in digital transformation and a key part in the success of products and portfolios. So always measuring what you're doing, understanding what success looks like, what are the questions that you're actually looking for the answers from that data. And the really key thing there is, while data is very, very important, more important is the understanding of that data, the ability to get to the answers that you require. The other key thing, and people talk about it all the time and is such a big thing in digital transformation, is that obsession with the customer, that huge customer focus, keeping them at the heart of everything you do. So all of these things foster a culture that rewards innovation, fearlessness, evidence-based decision-making, and these are all absolutely critical to help organizations launch better products. So that's one side of how important it is in portfolio management. That's the growth and the revenue side and the new products and services side. But the other side that's obviously very, very important is cost management. So if you are managing your portfolios properly, you should have a very clear view of how much cost is associated to developing, launching, and having those products out in the market and supporting them. So that includes all the people, processes, and the technology underpinning that. And that's often not properly accounted for in organizations against the products. So those costs are there, and you need to be aware of them. And when you are aware of them, when you have that accurate view, you realize how important elements of digital transformation are in managing those things, and how the right technology and solutions for your business can really reduce those manual processes, those disconnected systems that are all a burden to people in their time, and it means they're not using their time on value-adding activities for the organization. So those are two ways that digital transformation programs are absolutely critical to managing successful portfolios.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Margo. It was a very insightful explanation to our guest. Okay, Bhupesh, how are you today?
Right. I'm good. How are you?
Good too. All right, let me have this question from you. You have many years experience in Fortune 500 companies. You have seen the good, bad, and the ugly in the digital transformation. What Intel's approach to digital transformation?
Yeah, Bernie, I see that your question has two parts. One is the good, bad, and ugly aspect, and the second one is what is Intel's approach towards digital transformation, right? And let me take the second one first, right, and then I will come to the first. If you look at this industry in general, right, like almost every 10-year-ish, kind of like they go through an inflection point, right? Remember the 1980s where we were talking about personal computers, right?
Yeah.
everyone was concerned about that they will take away the jobs, right? Like everything will be automated. Then in the banks and the what happened? It created more jobs. Like our kids, like the next generations, they are far more advanced than us, right? Because they have access to the data. Then it happened like a dot-com era, right? Like in 2000-ish kind of thing. What happened that time? There were concerns around like, hey, privacy, right? Like, hey, you put a picture, somebody will superimpose it, what will happen and all. Now what happens, even if we are eating a burger, we post a picture on Facebook, Instagram, and like, hey, I'm enjoying the burger, right? So, and then in, I would say like a 2010-ish kind of thing, the cloud computing momentum started, right? Like, and everyone, like what happened, right? Everyone was talking about security there, data security, right? I still remember in 2000, this is somewhere in 2003, 2004, there used to be press article where cloud computing, they used to mimic as like the Mickey Mouse hat, right? What happened? We are having so many services now, right? Because we are always connected now. We are getting all these services because of that transformation that is happening. And now we are going through this AI and metaverse, and we are seeing all sorts of concerns around how it will take a job and all. And I will touch upon that one. But if you look at, it's not just about Intel, right? You look at Intel, you look at industry, and you look at the society. I think when the digital transformation happens, all these three, like the society as a society, ultimately in the long term, we come out as a winner. As an industry, we come out as a winner, right? With Intel, we focus on every time, like you look at these transformation happens, it increases the market like that we are targeting, right? And because Intel is fundamentally like almost every part of the computing. So clearly it drives new market for us. That's why I think we see like it's a, from Intel standpoint, we always take digital transformation very seriously because we know that in the long term, it's good for the society, it's good for the industry, and it's good for Intel. Now, going back to your point of the good, ugly, and the good, bad, and ugly part.
Yeah.
I think it all depends on how you see it, right, and where you are sitting. Are there any ethical concerns? Absolutely, yes. Are there security concerns like cyber security concern? Absolutely, right. Like Margo talk about the data, right? The value of data, right? When you're talking about digital transformation within the industries and all, within the companies, now you're talking about several applications running on a common infrastructure. How are you making sure that not only somebody is stealing from outside, but how are you making sure that one application is not stealing the data from another one? And these are like on the top of everyone's mind, like CIO's mind, right? We were doing a project with one of the sports league, and they said like, hey, when we are putting this on-prem edge compute, how can we make sure that we have these two competitive applications, they are not stealing data from each other, right? So those things are there. These days there are concerns around AI and how AI is going to take away the jobs. In fact, like if you see, there was a report published by University of Oxbridge in 2013, and they said like by 2020 or 2022, 40% or 43% of the jobs will be taken away by AI. Has that happened? No, right? Do we see in a long term AI will create more opportunities? Absolutely, yes. What happened in COVID? Within less than 1 year, we got vaccine. And not only got the vaccine, like everyone was like, every country was focusing on how do we immunize the population, right? If you look at the past records, it used to take 2 to 5 years. And that was, it is because of the digital transformation that is happening, the value of the data, the massive infrastructure that the industry leaders are leveraging to come up with the new solutions and all. Again, going back to my point, good for society, good for the industry, good for Intel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Bhupesh. It is very, very insight and people can get to know a lot. Thank you. Richard, let me come to you with this question. You have a vast experience. As I told you in my introduction, you were at Cadbury, you were at Mars, you know about Heineken and Codes, but BAT and Essentra. That's all I know, but there can be a lot more. How does the board or the CEO of a company view digital transformation? Over to you.
Let's talk about portfolio. When you are proposing programs, in this case, digital transformation, ultimately the board and the chief executives team are prioritizing investment. So you are part of a team that is trying to get your investment request at the top of the list. It's a standard capital allocation process that happens in every organization. How you choose to call it, that's up to you. Some people have a dislike for the word digital transformation, but if that's the mood music in your business, use it because it will resonate. But you need to follow that up with the good old-fashioned basics. If you're going to ask for money, and this is finance director, chief executive's team, you need to have a very strong investment and value proposition. In plain English, that means what are the benefits and what are the costs? That approach to asking for money has not changed ever since I became a business professional 30 years ago. So for me, the key here is be clear on the message, what it is you are proposing, what value is it going to bring to the business, what's it going to cost, and how long is it going to take? That's what the board wants to hear in as simple and as concise language as possible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing these details. And okay, Richard, let me come back to you again with this question. A McKinsey survey reveals about 70% of digital transformation fail, and it's a big number. Also, Forbes gives an even a bigger number. According to Forbes, they say 84% of companies fail at digital transformation. How can you convince a board or CEO to invest on transformation if the failure rates are at this high?
That then comes back to your own personal role on this journey. And in order to ask for money, you have to be credible in the first place. So you have to have had built up a track record, either you or your team. And there will always be failures in an organization. It is mature of an organization to recognize those failures and hopefully you learn from them, but there needs to be more success than failure. So credibility is one dimension. The other dimension in my experience is large transformation programs fail because they are too large. There's too much ambition. There are too many people involved. It's good to have external people involved, but they should not be taking control of the program. Control needs to remain internally. And then if I look at the internal setup, I've been part of organizations where two things have happened. One is you've had too many people involved. Another thing is you haven't had the right kind of people involved. So the people who are involved but don't really know what they're doing have a strong opinion about a lot of things but don't actually make progress. So for me, having a small focused team who are skilled, and then you need assertive sponsorship at a senior level to push through the changes that will result from the transformation initiative that you are proposing. And when I say sponsorship, and let me pick up Bhupesh's statement, digital transformation will inevitably have an impact on people. Inevitably, there will be some efficiencies coming through the displacement of people. That's a harsh reality, and it has been for me throughout my career. If you put in technology, technology automates process. By its very nature, the people that were involved in those manual processes will get displaced. So good organizations will either just acknowledge that that is an impact that the change program delivers, and you release those people. And I'm not trying to be, I'm not being unsympathetic here, I'm being realistic. So those people get released, or they get reapplied to new opportunities that are arising. So you've got a few complex interpersonal things going on here, but let's be very clear. Digital transformation improves processes, it displaces people, it makes your external interactions more efficient. It also gives the opportunity for your business to enter into new markets, new products, new services.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. Okay. Having that in mind, Margo, may I ask you this? Companies are falling to deliver digital transformation, as I explained, and Richard gave the explanation to the event, reason why we say it's kind of a failure to a certain level. So, but according to PCW, 60% of executives say digital transformation is their most critical growth driver in 2022. And 60% of CIOs say their companies are investing significantly in digital transformation. How does digital transformation and digital products contribute to the growth? You are an expert in digital products, so I think this is the appropriate question for you, Margo.
All right, so I talked previously a bit about how digital transformation can help contribute to launching better products, and it can help manage costs, and Richard touched on that as well. That's, I mean, we have to be honest, one of the big benefits that comes with digital transformation. So both of these are the factors contributing to growth, whether it's top line revenue growth, or you're managing to keep your costs flat or proportionally reduce them. This is growth of profitability. So I'm going to take a page for something Richard says. I'm not going to talk about the big picture of how digital transformation can contribute to growth and like talk about huge macro things. I want to zoom in on something very, very specific, customer focus, and how important that is and how that can help contribute to growth, and digital transformation is a huge part of that. So one of the key statistics from the report that you mentioned, the PwC report, and it really jumped out at me, was that 32% of consumers say they will leave, they will walk away from a brand after one bad experience. So that's quite a high number. It's worrying, but those are the people that are actually saying it. The data can have even starker information that it's telling us. So I've worked with many companies and with clients that often have an e-commerce element to their business. And you can see it live in action, where any friction, any difficulty, any negative experience that isn't perfect, the people are leaving your digital estates, and that is potentially leaving revenue on the table. So these digital systems have to be working properly. That is no longer a, people talk about creating delightful experiences for customers. It's no longer delightful. It is absolutely expected. It is the bare minimum. So what is it that makes the difference then between brands? And it's absolutely the people. So if you do manage to get your consumers to purchase, but if something goes wrong with that product or service and your customer care isn't available, responsive, empathetic, but most important, empowered to actually do something about the problem, you will not get another sale from that customer. And customers don't remember when things go right. They remember when things go wrong. So how you support those people that are at the front line at that key point, those key points of intervention, so that they can provide the best customer experience possible, that is absolutely key to brand loyalty and repeat business. And obviously a huge element of digital transformation is getting those systems in that enable the customers, the customer care people to do their jobs well and effectively. And it does make a big difference. Now, how does that contribute to growth? The question was about growth. Retaining a customer, turning them into a repeat customer is so much less expensive than earning a new customer. So you have to do both. Obviously, you have to focus on both. But if you have new business coming in through great marketing automation and sales, CRM and everything working perfectly there, optimizing, bringing new customers in, but also focusing so much on that experience of the customer through that whole life cycle, and therefore retaining them and turning them into repeat customer, then the growth will take care of itself.
Wow, it's great. It's great to know about it. Richard, would you like to add anything to this question?
Yeah, sure. Let me make an attempt to classify digital transformation and what impact it should have. I've already indicated there should be an internal element to it, internal process efficiency. There should be an external element to it, which is customer engagement. How you engage with customers varies by industry. And then the third element is how can you use technology to enter new products, services, markets that your business currently is not in today. Let me give you an example of that. Amazon, huge company. They had created a brand new marketplace called Amazon Web Services on the back of them being a distribution company and needing huge amounts of compute and storage capability. So they built big data centers to support their own operations. And then somebody had the idea, because we've got this scale, why don't we sell these services to somebody else? And the rest is history with Amazon, with AWS. If I give you an example of customer-facing digital transformation, I'm going to be quite basic here. If you automate a contact center, and this is something I did when I was at Essentra, and Essentra is a business-to-business process. Business-to-business is typically, it lags the consumer processes where people are quite happy to go online. You need contact centers. So inbound contact centers, for me, and I didn't call it digital transformation, but ultimately that's what it is. If you have a slick and efficient contact center that is interconnected with your CRM system, and you've got call hunting and routing when you've got inbound calls, so every call gets answered within 3 rings, you as a technology professional are well within your rights to stand up and say that's digital transformation, because we've then improved the customer experience. And to Margot's point, what you have there is a rich customer experience. Hopefully that drives loyalty. Hopefully that drives share of wallet. Internal efficiency, of course, nobody talks about it, but digital transformation, if you get ERP implementation or warehouse management system implementation or CRM implementation slick and efficient, it's digital transformation. But you need to bring it to life. In my experience, you actually need to keep telling people what impact it's having. Process efficiency, cycle time reduction, stock efficiency. So we're doing all of these projects, and we've all done projects for a long time. For me, the follow through here is critical to remind people of the positive impact these project investments are having.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Margo. It's very well explained. And our clients, our audience learn quite a lot. Bhupesh, let me come back to you again. You are an expert in IoT, Industrial 4.0, and infrastructure that delivers success. Can you please help our audience to understand the difference between Industry 4.0 versus Industry 5.0?
Yeah, it's very simple actually, right? And
I
I'm going to
thought
go
it's
back
very
to
big question.
and I'm going to go back to what Margo and Richard said. Like
Yeah.
on one side of the spectrum, you have these enterprises, right? Let's say you have these manufacturing companies, right? Focusing on Industrial 4.0. What do they care about? Any enterprise care about revenue and margins. And that brings everything what Margo and Richard said, right? Like efficiencies, higher productivity, lower cost, right? All these are the elements. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the customers like all of us, right? Who want like a decent product at a decent price. I won't say very low price because then it dilutes the quality and all. I won't say very high price, but the price and the quality has to match, right? In between these two spectrum, you have the workers who are working in these factories, and you have the machines working in these factories, right? Like in the past, what used to happen was there was a human intelligence, but the machines were dumb. That was Industry 3.0.
Okay.
Simple, right? Then started talking about the machines having some intelligence. This is Industry 4.0. And this is where some anxiety started creeping in the workers and all that. Hey, when these machines will be intelligent, they will take away our jobs. And I will touch base upon that one, right? Including the AI side. The Industry 5.0 is where human intelligence and the machine intelligence are working seamlessly.
Okay.
So what is then Industry 6.0? Industry 6.0 is where big data, cloud, artificial intelligence, human intelligence, machine intelligence, everything working together, right, seamlessly.
All right. So
That's
when the
Industry 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, 6.0 at a very high level.
6.0 is also coming. So what are the gaps you see, or what are the advantages you see in the 6.0?
So I would say, like, instead of focusing on 6.0,
Yeah.
which is like where we are saying that everything will work seamlessly and all, it's a crawl, walk, run stage. Right now, we should be focused. We have not even solved the problems or have the solutions of full Industry 4.0. So I would say, like what Richard is saying, like when we talk about Industry 4.0, like, and you in the previous slide you talk about like CIOs are investing heavily in the like digital transformation.
Yeah.
CIOs are right that they are investing in, but are they getting? So what is happening? There are many proof of concepts going on in the industries right now. But when you look at the cost over the period of 5 years, are the CIOs getting the funding from CFOs to support those initiatives for a long period of time? That's a very big challenge that is happening right now. Right.
Oh.
So those kind of things, right, from the I would say funding aspect, from the showing the ROI. I can tell you, like, we work with one of a very large manufacturer in the US. You know, how do they transfer the data? This is one of the largest manufacturer in the US. They take the data in the USB drive, then one of the employees goes on a bicycle, goes to the other side of the factory, put the USB drive and transfer the data. So thinking about Industry 6.0, let's think about Industry 4.0 right now, right? It's again, crawl, walk, run. We are and the transferring the data. It all looks good on PowerPoints right now, but the reality is we as industry, we are not there yet, right? And just one last point around the AI and the anxiety that I talk about between the machines and the humans and all. Like, what do you think, what is the most advanced AI solution that we have right now? We means like as a world, ChatGPT, right? That's what everyone is talking about, like how it is taking over, right, to Google, and how like it's solving like so many things. Last week, I was on ChatGPT and I asked like, how do we make a rocket? How can I make a rocket? There's no answer. Human intelligence, you cannot replace human intelligence. That's about. There is a reason why we have human intelligence. Yes, we will, like what Richard was saying, we will, it may replace, like the AI will replace some regular work, the regular things, like somebody writing about Portland, Oregon, where I live, right? How much intelligence is required there? Now, no, somebody can argue, like, but there are complex things that have come from the human mind, and they will continue to, because AI is dependent on what you are feeding into it. Right? So if there is a garbage in, garbage out. But if there is a good data, but there are complex problems. Like, and I encourage all the viewers here to go to ChatGPT and ask, like, hey, how do we make a rocket? How do we do this? The complex things. You will never get answers. So again, going back to my point is, the transformation is happening. Right now, the machines are taking the intelligence. There is anxiety in the humans, right? Industry 5.0, we think that they will work seamlessly. Absolutely, they will work seamlessly when the humans will recognize that, like what Richard was saying, that these machines are bringing value to them. And then whether the Industry 6.0 is going to happen, absolutely. Is it going to happen in next 5, 10, 15 years? Absolutely not. Is it going to happen in next 50 years? Absolutely, because the overall the industry is going to evolve. Yeah.
If I may comment, Bhupesh, you're asking the wrong question of ChatGPT. How do I win the lottery?
Yeah, exactly. So,
sorry, I digress. Bernie, I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist it.
Okay.
We could have a whole nother webinar about ChatGPT, I think.
Time is going, but let me ask thank you, Bhupesh. Let me ask this, Margo, you live and breathe digital products, but many organizations are failing to deliver their MVP or achieve their ROI. What are the common pitfalls that undermine success? Can you discuss with an example, please, for the understanding of my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that, I wanted to talk about ChatGPT and have one more thing. So I actually asked ChatGPT to, I prompted it with this situation, the panel and the questions, and I asked it some hard truths of digital transformation and examples. And I mean, it gave great answers, but very typical answers. I didn't use the answers, but I think that's also a good illustration of how it can help reduce the burden of labor, but always that human element, that human layer being added on to really add value is needed to kind of translate the things coming out of there. So yeah, the question, what's happening? Why are these products not achieving their return on investment? You mentioned MVP, you mentioned ROI. I'm going to kind of ignore the MVP thing because it's a little bit of a bugbear of mine. It's not a favorite term of mine. So let's focus on return on investment. And I'm going to also assume that we're talking about products that, lots of products get launched that don't succeed. Across history, this happens. So I'm going to refer to products that have launched and that are quite successful, but they haven't achieved the expected return on investment. And why is that? So my hypothesis is that very often the expected return on investment that was posited at the beginning was wrong. So unfortunately, right now, we are living in a business environment that rewards inflated expected returns, unrealistic business cases, and short-termism. This has come up in terms of getting investment through and prioritizing investment. And Bhupesh mentioned about the digital transformation as a tool for helping us in the long term, which I think is absolutely key. So right now we're living in this world where you do get rewarded for these kind of inflated returns, this expectation. This is changing. We are seeing it happening where people are looking under the hood and they're seeing that companies that had hugely inflated valuations are actually not, at best, they are profitable in the minutiae, small single-digit profitability. At worst, they're making a loss year on year. People are starting to pay attention to that. And so we have to address that, because how that has happened is because people often aren't factoring in those digital transformation elements, those slices that are required to properly support that product and make it a success in market. So they're launching shiny front-end products that are actually supported by spreadsheets and manual processes and manual systems, old systems, clunky systems, people, lots of people doing work that should be automated. Sales and marketing, Richard talked about this, sales and marketing that is based on antiquated systems or antiquated activities, and digital transformation can be used to completely transform that. So if you're not factoring that into the business case for your lovely, wonderful product that you want to launch, you are not going to deliver the promised growth. No matter what that business case says, if you are not factoring in transformation to properly support it, you won't deliver the growth, no matter what you've put on that investment case or that piece of paper. So in my previous role, you wanted an example. We were launching our first direct-to-customer product. So it was a B2B product. And before that, all of our products were taken to market through resellers or distributors. So we didn't have marketing automation. Our CRM wasn't a nice mature system, and it wasn't linked up to anything else. It wasn't even linked up to our marketing system. We didn't have any of that wonderful stuff. So when I needed to present this investment case for this this new product that we were taking to market, this B2B product, I made sure to factor in that slice of digital transformation into it. So it was a realistic business case, as opposed to making it look nicer from a revenue, from a profitability point, and ignoring all of those things that are needed. I factored it in because it's absolutely critical to the medium and long-term success of these products. So if there's one thing that I want to kind of leave as a piece of advice to people watching this webinar, it's that if you're responsible for developing, launching, managing products, whether you're a chief commercial officer, chief product officer, whatever you're called, you make sure you're best friends with the CTO and the CIO and the COO, whoever it is, and make sure that you guys understand each other's objectives and how you can help each other to get these things through the door. Because this has been touched on by both Richard and Bhupesh. The truth is, boards don't like investment cases that are about cost savings. They want to hear about revenue. They want to hear about growth. It's maybe not right, it's maybe not fair, but it's true. So they will prioritize these revenue earning growth business cases over business cases that are around transforming or cost efficiency or that sort of thing. So if you can hook your digital transformation initiatives and the costs associated with those, then take that slice that's needed and hook it into that investment case for that growth, that new product, then your colleagues and everyone, you'll be able to get these needed initiatives through the door.
All right. It's very valuable explanation once again. Thank you very much, Margo. Okay, for the topic of today, the digital transformation, very valuable topic. Okay, I'm coming back to the digital transformation failures, Richard. This is for you. Every organization is unique. Cultures are different. Operating rhythms are different. Can an organization replicate someone else's digital strategy or blueprint? If they do, what areas do you see that may not come together nicely or correctly?
For you to pick up somebody else's
Strategy.
blueprint transformation strategy, in my experience, you can't pick it up and just transplant it because every company is different. Having said that, there are lots of overlaps between companies in the same industry and also in different industries. So my experience is that with an open mind, you can look at the use cases. So don't take the transformation journey wholesale, but look at parts of it. So get into the detail and see what is relevant to your company. Let's come back to Chat GPT. Everybody's getting excited about that right now. So I consider that to be a fascinating technology. It's intellectually stimulating, but let's now overlay reality. How could Chat GPT work in your company? That for me is the big question to answer. And let me just go to the end game here. It probably can't in the short term. So don't get distracted with it and focus on things that can. I'll give you an example of applying technology overlaid onto a website. This is artificial intelligence, and there's another buzzword. It just happens to be the technology you're using to try and improve upsell and cross-sell on your website. My company conducted a pilot of upsell and cross-sell. To Margo's point, this is very much a growth play, and we ran that proof of concept for 6 months. Much to our disappointment, the return on investment wasn't there. We couldn't drive the upsell and cross-sell and the increase in share of wallet that we wanted. You've spent $60,000 or $75,000, recognize that it's not going anywhere, put a lid on it and move on. But that example has come from somebody else using an upsell and cross-sell. For their particular product mix, it was successful. For ours, it wasn't. Okay, you've tried it, it's not worked. So answer to the question, be selective about those use cases, my experience, run a conference room pilot or a proof of concept or whatever you want to call it, prove it and scale, or disprove it and move on.
Yeah, Bernie, if I may add something here, I would fully agree with what Richard has said, right? Like what we are looking when we are talking to the enterprises, especially in the context of enterprise 5G, even though they are from the same vertical, IoT vertical, but because they have different priorities, their targeted use cases are different. Right, so going back to Richard's point, like focus on the use cases, because the use cases of one enterprise can be different than the another one. The second one is like he talks about spending 70, 80K, right, for the POC kind of thing. We have seen CIOs having a budget of 100 to 200K easily, and they're asking us like, hey, can we have like an enterprise 5G kind of like a POC? And that's all good. You go there, you do like a 6 months POC or something like that. But then the bigger question is, what is after that? Can the CIOs go to CFOs and get the funding for the long-term deployment? Right? And that's a very challenging part, because it goes back to what Margo said. These guys have to justify the ROI, and the ROI can be only justified when you keep adding the use case. If I'm doing an investment and I'm only focusing on one use case, yes, that's a good use case that I can prove in my lab, but that it may not give me the enough ROI for the infrastructure cost that I have to take, right, like for the product deployment. But if I continue to add more and more use cases, that means the cost per use case is now going down, and that would help me to justify it, and that would also help me to justify like how these use cases can help me increase the revenue. Again, enterprises care about revenue, margins, and everything else, whether the cost, whether efficiency, whether customer, everything falls into these two metrics.
And if I can just add to that, we talk about use case, pilot, scale up. When I talk to executive teams, I talk about the initial phase and it being potentially a throwaway, but you've got some metrics that you're trying to prove. For me, as part of that same conversation, you also need to talk about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
If this is successful, that 100K of investment is going to go to 5 million. You can just put it out there, you don't need to justify it, but that's just to give people a sense of, if it's successful and we want to go enterprise wide, those are the kind of investment dollars we're talking about at a later stage. So you're managing expectations right at the front end of the investment request. So when you do come back and say the pilot's been successful, it's going to be no surprise that you're asking for 7 figures.
Oh yeah. So
It's amazing how selective memory is, though. Sometimes, isn't it?
You just have to remind them.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, very valuable
For this business case I showed you, I said it.
And in this case, okay, this is this webinar is a gift from IG, Inextricable Group to our clients, our premier clients. So having these very valuable panelists is a great session. Okay, let me go back to our audience. And audience, if they have any questions for these valuable panelists, valuable industries, you can ask it now. This is the Q&A section. Please send your question to our panelists. They will reply you and you can clear all your gray areas. If you have, okay, there is a question coming. Whom should I put this question to? This is a question for Bhupesh. Why do companies fail to show productivity improvement or reduction in waste after investing on manufacturing transformation such as IoT and AI?
I think it goes back to the point, right? Like that Margo and Richard were making, right? You have certain KPIs, but you're focusing on the short term, I would say POC kind of thing. And when you do that, right, like if you do not have a clear picture of how you're going to scale it up, which in most of the cases it does not happen. And that's a big challenge of the industry. And it's not only just for, I would say, manufacturing vertical, it's across other verticals too. These kind of challenges come. I would also say, I would also argue that in the other case, like there is a flip side of the story also. When you look at ports like these seaports and all, right? Like if you go there, there is like most of the cargo coming in, going out, and everything is manual. And the reason why it's manual is because there is no connectivity there, right? Because like the carriers or the telcos, they do not have any incentive to put the infrastructure there because there are no subscribers like you and me who are paying $60, $70 per month. If you put Wi-Fi, it's not going to work because of all the like the metal there, right? And so everything is manual, and there is a 40% error rate because of the human, like one guy with a notepad write down the truck number, chassis number, container number, pass it to the other guy who puts into the computer and all. More and more ports are deploying now digital solutions, especially with enterprise 5G, and they are seeing not only the benefit within the port, but now they can share the data with like in the past the truck owner would not know which container they are taking, the truck is taking. So now you have the data sharing, making it much more easier. So again, there are both the sides of the story. We have seen it, right? But again, you really have to see, like if you have a long-term strategy, you have like the use cases in mind, which will reduce your cost and all those kind of things, then only these things can be successful. Otherwise, if you just think about short term, most of the time, like it's like if you just think like a maybe like a 2-year-ish kind of project, you'll never be able to succeed in these things.
All right, thank you. I hope the audience who raised this question got answered. You can see my phone is keep blinking, 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 and I don't think you'll be able to conclude this. Okay, there's one more question to Margo. Okay, they're asking, it's a question on digital product. Steve Jobs said, start with customer experience and work backwards to the technology. Or we should have the right technology foundations and process first to build the digital product. What's your verdict based on your experience, Margo? A valuable question from the audience.
So I'm going to say that this is a trick question because I think it's both, but I'm going to always, my heart is the customer, and so I'll justify this. Every process has a customer. There's someone using the process. Every internal system has a customer who's using that system. So if you think of that, those customers, they are customers, then you can optimize your internal systems so that they're better benefiting the people that are using them, optimizing your processes and building it, bringing in technology that makes their lives and them doing their work easier so they can focus on higher value add activities. So if we always think of the customer, and that's not the paying customer outside necessarily, the internal customer as well, then we solve both. We make the customer, the external customer happy because their experiences are going to be so much better if the internal people are happy and they have the tools to support them. And we make our internal customers happy by having the right processes and technology supporting them.
All right. Thank you, Margo. Thank you very much. Okay, there's one more question. Okay, this question to Richard. Okay, Richard, there are different definitions of digital transformation. Different organizations do different things under the same banner. Is this one of the reasons that CXOs go in different directions that ultimately leads to failures? Audience asking you.
Sure. We've got 30 seconds. For me, you should use the vocabulary that the organization is comfortable with. So if they're using digital transformation, you need to leverage it. But for me, and there was a question previously about, I can't remember it, to do with how do people interpret digital transformation and why does it fail? It fails because not many people understand it. Your job, particularly if you're an IT director, is to bring the topic to life and be much more specific. So when somebody says blah, 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 digital transformation, you need the next level of detail, which explains, and it means this. It means this project and this project. So you've got your list of projects as opposed to talking about digital transformation in the round. That's why I'm a great believer in being specific so people are clear about what it is you are proposing. And more importantly, once you've got beyond the message that says digital transformation, it's the value, coming back to what I said right at the beginning, each project has a value. Describe the value, describe the project and what it's going to do and the impact it's going to have, and then also say, and that's the investment that's required. That hopefully brings that all together.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Margo, Richard, and Bhupesh, there are so many questions, but the time is running out. Okay, let me, my valuable audience, you can share your questions. Not right now, but even later, we will get all these panelists to answer you. You can see our email address and our website. You can link with us.